You look quite good for your age. Oh wow, you're very confident for wearing that colour. You actually made me laugh for once. Now, none of those sounded openly rude, but in Britain, they might not be compliments. And the worst part, most people have absolutely no idea how to respond. Some people become defensive, some people laugh awkwardly, and some people panic and say absolutely nothing at all, and then think and think and think, and then think of the perfect response 6 hours later in the shower. We've all done it. So today, if only we had a time machine and go back, but today I'm going to teach you how to exactly respond to awkward British comments naturally, without sounding rude, aggressive, or socially uncomfortable. Because in British culture, the people with the most social power are often not the loudest people, they're the calmest. And if you want to learn even more about British culture, communication, pronunciation, and the real English people, British people, actually use every day, there is a free PDF you can download in the description below. And please do remember to like and hype this lesson, as it genuinely helps other learners to discover the channel as well. But hello, you wonderful people. Welcome to my channel, English Right Now. My name is British English teacher Roy, and I've been teaching English for around 16 years. Now, over that time, I've realized something fascinating. A huge part of confidence in another language is knowing if this awkward situation happens, I know how to respond. And once you have that feeling, you stop panicking socially. So today, I'm going to teach you 3 powerful ways to respond to sarcasm, backhanded compliments, and passive-aggressive comments naturally, without sounding rude, aggressive, or awkward. I'm also going to teach you what not to do. And the beautiful thing is, a lot of these strategies will work far beyond Britain as well. So let's begin and talk about strategy 1 for responding to those awkward comments. The calm, positive response. Now, this first strategy is probably the safest of the 3, and honestly, it's incredibly powerful psychologically, because instead of becoming defensive and like, what do you mean? You stay warm, you stay calm, and you respond positively. Now, why is this powerful? Because the simple reason is awkward comments often rely on emotional reaction. The moment you become visibly offended, the tension grows. But calm people, comfortable people, confident people, they rarely panic socially. So let me give you some examples to show you what I mean. Imagine somebody looks at your outfit and says, "Wow, that's a bold choice." Now, maybe they genuinely like it, like they actually say it with some genuine feeling, like, "Wow, that's a really bold choice, I love it." But maybe they don't. Maybe they have that drier, kind of more passive-aggressive tone. But instead of panicking and saying, what's that supposed to mean? You smile lightly and say, "Thanks. I wanted to wear something a bit different." Notice what happened there. You stayed emotionally steady. You accepted yourself. You show, "I don't care what you say." And you refused to enter awkwardness. That is social confidence. Let's give you another example. Somebody says these words, "You actually speak English really well." Now, we've talked about backhanded compliments in a previous lesson. I'll link it in the description, but this one is how to respond to it. But we've already established that somebody may say something like this genuinely to be kind. But sometimes there's that hidden level of surprise underneath it. In fact, in that previous lesson, I taught you how to spot a backhanded compliment. Now, a defensive response to, "You actually speak English really well," is something like, "Well, obviously I do." That immediately creates tension. Now, if that comment indeed was designed to hurt you, well, it shows that person's won. Instead, say, "Thank you. I've worked really hard on it." Honestly, it's simple, it's quite calm, and it's warm. You've sort of taken it as a genuine compliment, even if you know it's not intended to be. And honestly, that kind of response often makes people respect you more. It shows them that they can't win through nastiness. And if it is a genuine compliment as well, you haven't said the wrong thing either. Let's give you another example with this calm response technique. Now imagine you've cooked a meal and you invite a British person over. They're eating the meal and they say, "Wow, this is actually good." Now, if that was intended to be a backhanded compliment, it means I wasn't really expecting this from you. I didn't know you were capable. And it's kind of a put down. But instead of becoming uncomfortable, you could say, "Oh, brilliant. I'm really glad you like it." That response is relaxed and it shows that you're emotionally unbothered. That word is really important. It shows that you're not bothered at all. If you panic, even if it was a genuine compliment, the room starts to feel awkward. But if you stay relaxed, that tension disappears and it shows in some way that you're the bigger person. It kind of shows, I don't really care what you think. And other people will respect you more for it. And quite possibly the person who made the comment, which could have been accidentally offensive, might also respect you more as well. Now, a quick warning. Before we continue, I do want to say something important. Not every awkward comment is malicious. British people often communicate through things like understatement, teasing and banter, especially if we like you, irony and indirectness. Some people genuinely think they're being funny or friendly by saying, "Ooh, you scrub up well." The goal is not paranoia, the goal is emotional intelligence. And honestly, that distinction matters enormously. Remember, that British person may be trying to pay a genuine compliment and it just comes out a bit wrong, a bit awkwardly. Or they may be nervous as well and they just make some kind of awkward comment. Or they're just kind of making a joke, trying to put you at ease. This is an important part of British culture we need to talk about in a future lesson. Banter. But simply put, not every awkward comment is intended to be malicious. Strategy 2 for dealing with an awkward comment is soft clarification. Now this strategy, this is socially very intelligent because instead of becoming angry, you gently ask the person to clarify what they mean. And that awkwardness that they've put on you quietly moves back to them. Now the key here is a relaxed tone, slight curiosity, and no aggression. There's some kind of innocence in your question. This is not a case of, "Excuse me?" No. That immediately could create a heightened level of conflict. Instead, you stay calm and lightly invite an explanation. And often people just instantly backtrack and go, "Oh, no, I didn't mean anything by that." And quite possibly, they didn't mean anything by that. But even if they were being malicious, they're probably still likely to backtrack because it would make them rude to have to explain what they genuinely meant if it was intended maliciously. So let's give some examples. You get a haircut. Somebody says, "That's a very interesting haircut." And you say, "Oh, thank you. What makes you say it's interesting?" Notice how calm that sounds and almost a level of innocence, like you're not sure what they mean. It sounds genuine. You're not attacking them, but now you've asked them what they mean when they say my haircut is interesting, and they have to explain themselves. And most people will panic a little bit and say, no, I just mean, sorry, I mean it suits you. Another example, you actually made me laugh for once. It shows a surprise. But instead of becoming offended, you could just say, "Really? Why are you so surprised?" You are calmly exposing the implication without creating drama. And remember, if they do explain themselves in a malicious way, you just go, "Oh, okay." There's nothing you can do about it if that person chooses to be rude. Now, example 3, somebody comes to your house and they say, "Wow, you've done well for yourself." You could smile and say something like, "Thanks, is it different to what you expected?" Now again, tone matters massively. Said aggressively, it becomes very uncomfortable, but said lightly, with a smile, it can be quite witty. And again, one of the hardest things for learners to understand about British culture is that the same sentence could sound funny, aggressive, flirtatious, rude, warm, or deeply offended, depending entirely on tone. I think we've just got another future lesson right there. British communication often relies heavily on intonation to show emotion. And to be honest, even British people sometimes misunderstand each other. It's part of life. Now, quickly before we move on to strategy 3, let's talk about responses that make things worse. Let's quickly talk about what not to do, because honestly, it's just as important to know what not to do as what to do. So these responses usually create more awkwardness. Number 1, over-defending yourself. Somebody says something like, "That's a bold outfit," or "That's a bold choice," talking about your clothes. You could say, "No, actually, this outfit was really expensive and fashionable. Loads of people like it." Now, emotionally, that signals insecurity. Confident people rarely rush to defend themselves intensely. Another response that could make things worse is becoming too serious. British people often use humour to soften tension, so if somebody makes a slightly awkward joke and you suddenly respond like it's some kind of courtroom trial, what on earth do you mean by that? The atmosphere becomes very uncomfortable very quickly. And the third type of response you may want to avoid is becoming passive-aggressive back. This could be a big mistake. Again, somebody says something about your outfit and you say, well, at least I'm not dressed like you. It's conflict, and socially, you lose more by escalating emotionally, especially in British culture. Don't fight fire with fire, even though you may want to. But now let's talk about strategy 3, and this is my personal favourite. This is the kind of advanced level of responding to awkward comments. This is where you stop sounding uncomfortable and you start sounding really kind of socially fluent. One of the most British ways to handle awkwardness is through light humour. Not cruelty, not humiliation, just playful, emotional joking, emotional ease. And honestly, often British people use humour as a social test. They're kind of checking on a subconscious level. Are you comfortable? Can you laugh? Can you handle a bit of light teasing? Can you handle a bit of joking? Are you socially relaxed? Now, obviously, some people take banter too far. And at that point, they should apologise. They should backtrack. But gentle humour can instantly transform awkwardness into connection. It kind of shows that you get it. You get the social level. So if somebody gently teases you, maybe it is your friend and they say, you actually look smart today. You could respond with something like, oh, don't worry, it won't happen again. This is typical British humour. It's self-deprecating. It's attacking yourself to take the power away from that comment. You are showing, not only can I take a joke, I can laugh at myself, and it's light and relaxed. Again, don't savage yourself. You don't need to go too far and go, oh no, I know I look absolutely awful usually. It's terrible. That's too much. You just kind of go, what, these old rags? God, you're easily impressed. Again, it's about taking control of the joke and showing not only can you understand the joke, you can laugh at yourself, but you can also engage as well. It's not about genuine attacking. Another example, you have a haircut, somebody goes, whew, that's a brave haircut. Maybe a bit of self-deprecation again. You could say, yeah, I think I accidentally went to a sheep shearer's. Or you could go a bit more absurd and say something like, yep, I like to keep the public emotionally engaged. Why not? Make a joke. Have fun with it. Another example, you dress smartly again and somebody says, oh, somebody's dressed up today. Now you could make a joke about it and say, yeah, I just went to a wedding and I didn't have time to change. Or you could just say, yeah, I thought it'd be a special treat for everybody to see me dressed up. But the thing is, what makes those responses work? Well, they communicate. I'm comfortable with myself. I can laugh at myself and I can take a joke. And honestly, the energy changes everything. Now, here's something really important. Confidence is not about having that perfect comeback, that perfect thing to say to respond. That's what films teach us. It's what comedy films teach us, but they are scripted. Real life isn't scripted. Real confidence is often much quieter. It's the ability to remain emotionally steady without desperately needing approval from everybody around you. And honestly, that's one of the biggest cultural differences that some learners notice about the UK and about British culture. British people often admire people who stay calm, they don't oversell themselves, they don't become emotionally explosive, and they can handle awkwardness lightly, because British culture is deeply shaped by emotional restraint. Sometimes in healthy ways, but, well, honestly, sometimes in unhealthy ways. And once you understand that, British conversations start making a lot more sense. And the beautiful thing is, you don't need to be British. You don't need to lose your own culture or personality. But understanding these social patterns just gives you a bit more freedom. Because now, instead of freezing in awkward moments, you have 3 options. And honestly, that changes everything. And if you'd like to continue learning with me, please don't forget there's a free PDF waiting in the description below. And please do remember to like and hype the lesson. Thank you so much for watching, you wonderful people. And I'll see you in the next lesson.